Hello guys, Dejan here. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video I decided to finally paint my Mc Murrough. As you maybe remember, I bought this miniature like maybe almost 2 years ago, and then I assembled it, and then I think it fell down on the ground 3 times and broke completely, so I had to reglue him 2 or 3 times already. But finally I decided to paint him and show you how I did it. So without further ado, let's start. Before I started painting, I did some zenithal highlight on the model from top, and then I just sprayed on the 3 parts of the sword, like on the edges and on the middle of the sword, just white, just for me to be easier to paint a sword later. So I will start with painting the fur first. I will start with the Rhinox Hide and paint the most deepest part of the fur. So like in my head is like that the longer the fur is, it is more older. The older it is, it's going to be brighter. So I will start first with the Rhinox Hide, which is very dark brown, and then I will mix Cavalry brown and the orange brown like 50-50 for my second layer, and I will use these to paint like the mid part of the fur, and also I will use this to paint the skin. So this is really a rough part of painting, but just try to go inside the recesses as much as you can. For the next step, I'm going to use a pure orange brown. At this time I'm going to start highlighting like the most raised areas of the skin, and also I will use this moment to try to draw some fur on the skin parts where it's not actually molded. So like you see here on the muscles and on the knees, because they molded it with intention to be a bare skin, but I wanted to have the effect of the fur, so I'm just going to use the tip of my brush and try to draw little lines just to try to make an effect of the fur. And lastly, I'm going to use Ivory just to finish off with the fur. So I will use this mostly at the end of the fur, and to start applying more highlights on the skin. I will also try to draw even more hair on the areas that don't have it. After that was done, I use a basic skin tone just to paint the gum around the teeth, and then I applied one good wash. And actually for that wash I use a skeleton Horde contrast paint, and I just washed the teeth, mouth, and all the fangs. I gave it around 10 minutes for the wash to dry, and then I just went back to the Ivory and applied very little highlight at the top of these little areas. And now it's time to move on painting his kilt. For this I will use first gray-green, which is actually a very dark gray, and then I will paint the whole of his kilt with this color, with the one very thin coat, and on top of it I will also paint his shoulders and the rest of these armors that he have on his chest with this color. Then I'm going to mix a little of the ivory into this color, and I'm going to use this mix as my highlight. So on the chest armor I will highlight mostly the wrinkles and the raised areas, and on the flat armor panels I will focus on doing the edge highlight. I will also use this color and try to draw a few scratches on his armor. Now it's time to show you how to do the patterns on the kilt. So first we will use a heavy green, and I'm going around the kilt and I'm going to draw vertical lines, but these lines are going to be thick lines. So try to use the whole width of your brush and try to draw thick lines. And also try to make sure that you have an equal gap between the lines. After we are done with that, we will do completely the same, but this time we are going to draw horizontal lines all around the kilt. So go around. I don't think you need to do a lot of them. I think 3 or maybe 4 lines, and you will have a good coverage with a good gap in between, because you don't want to make them too close to each other, because after this we are going to draw more thinner lines to complete the pattern. Now I'm going to take an even smaller brush, and I will use a deep yellow, and I'm going to draw vertical and horizontal lines in the middle of the thick green lines that I did before. So you want here to be really precise, and you want to draw very nicely thin lines in the middle to be able to create this pattern to look really good. Don't worry if you ever make a mistake, take the previous green and just paint over it and then start over again. And after that I'm going to pick up bloody red, and I'm going to draw the same vertical and horizontal lines, but this time I will draw them in between the green stripes that I did. So these lines as well need to be thin, the same size as the yellow ones that we did before. And that will actually complete the look of the kilt. There is no need to do any washes to do the shadows or the highlights, because the patterns will hide all of it and make it look natural like this. Now I will move on to try to finish the rest of his armor. First I will paint with the pale blue the rest of this padded armor that he have on the chest, and also there is a lot of these parts on his arm, like on his biceps and on his underarms as well. So I will go very carefully with the 2 thin coats, and I will just try to not go inside the recesses, because I wanna keep those areas as my shadows, so I don't need to do any washes or any drawing any shadows in those areas, so that I can straight after this proceed on doing the highlights. For the next step I will add a little white into the pale blue. It's like 60-40 mix, and I will start repainting the areas I painted before, but this time I will cover much less area, but this time focus more time on the raised areas and the areas that are mostly exposed to the light. And then for the final highlight you're going to use a pure white, and this is going to be applied as edge highlight. So go around all these edges on these armor panels and just draw very thin lines. So after that is finished, we are going to move to paint the leather parts on this model. So he have few of these small leather bags and backpack on his back. So I'm going to base paint all of this with the 2 very thin coats of Rhinox Hide. And then after that layer is completely dry, I'm just going to use Nuln Oil and apply 1 layer of wash over it. After wash has been completely dried, I gave it like 20 minutes to dry. I will use orange brown and I will start applying highlights. Like actually I wanted to do a worn letter effect, so I will apply it as a stippling technique. So you're just going to touch the areas with the tip of your brush and create uneven lines and dots just to simulate scratches. And to create final effect, I will use a medium flesh tone, and using the same stippling technique I will go around, but this time I will cover less area than I covered in the previous step, and as well I will draw a bunch of these uneven little lines and dots just to simulate effect that this letter has been worn and scratched all of the time. And the last touch that I'm going to do on this letter is to apply a glaze with the smoke, because this will actually unify everything that we did on this letter, and it will soften up all the rough lines and all the rough transitions that we did painting two colors on top of it, so it will look much more natural and it will create a better effect. After that, I'm going to do a very similar thing on the rest of the backpack. I'm going to pick up a uniform green as my first and base color for the rest of the backpack, and I'm just going to paint those areas with two very thin coats. We are going to use the same stippling technique as in the previous step, but this time I will use a golden olive, and I will go around this backpack and start drawing little scratches on the flat areas where the light will reflect, and also I will start drawing on all the edges little lines and little dots just to simulate scratches. And for the final highlight, we will repeat the same process, but this time using deep yellow, and we will cover less area, so actually I will draw smaller lines than in a previous step. And we are going to do the same thing as we did while we are working on the brown leather. This time I'm going to use a green ink, and I'm going to apply a very soft glaze around all the green leather just to unify all the effects that we drew there. After that is done, I'm going to move and start working on the blue armor panels. I will start with the dark Prussian blue, and I will just do the base color on all the armor panels that I want to be blue, but this time I'm going to be really thorough, so I'm going to paint all of the areas with the two very thin coats until I get a unified look. Then I will mix a little of the blue-green into previous color, and I'm going to sketch where I want my highlights to fall. So usually it will be like on the middle and a little on the edges. So just go around and draw like little sketches where you want your lights to be. After you're done with the first pass, add a little more blue-green into the mix, or use the pure one, and then go again and draw another one on top of it, but this time a little smaller layer than the previous step. Then we are going to start introducing much lighter highlights, so we will start adding some white to the previous mix and start going over the same areas, but we will start drawing much smaller lines and start making these highlights really pop up. So after this is done, I'm going to go there with the pure white, and I'm going to apply the smallest highlight in the middle and do the edge highlight all over these panels. And just to unify everything, I'm going to mix very little of black into dark Prussian blue and make a very thin glaze. And now I'm going to focus mostly over the shadow areas and also on the areas that I wanted to be for one level little darker than the rest. So I'm just going to apply the soft glaze on top. There is a few more little details that are left to be done. I will start with doing the LEDs on his armor panels. I will start by just painting them white, and I just pick up some bright red color and fill out the lights. Also, I made this red a little more liquid by adding 3 dots of water, so it flow really nice inside the gap and stay there, and actually it created a really good effect. Now I will move on to start working on the gun. I just painted the gun black, and then I made like a dark gray by mixing like white 50-50 with black, and did a rough edge highlight. Then I pick up a pure white and one of my smallest and most precise brushes, and I start doing a really nice edge highlight against all sharp edges of the gun. So just I went around and I traced all the sharp lines as neat as I could possibly do it. And just to make it a little cooler, I added a few lights on the gun. Since I already blocked these 3 points of light on my sword while priming the model, now it's really simple. I will use a light sea blue and just glaze over the sword, and you will see that you will have a darker area under, because when you do the glaze it's very transparent. And then for the second step I will pick up a sky blue, and then I will enhance my light areas. And then to finish off the sword, the last step that will put everything together is actually to edge highlight with the pure white all the sharp edges on the sword. So there is the leading edge and the cut edge, and also on the middle of sword there is 2 lines, and you can also draw a few of the scratches on the sword as well. And that's it, guys. I'm going to wrap this video up here. This is going to be his final look. I just made some simple base for him. If you're interested how, let me know, and I can make a video for it. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It will mean a lot to me. And if you have any comments and suggestions, or you would like to see me painting something in the future, please leave the comment in the section down below, and I will try to do my best. This will be all for now, guys. Stay safe, take care, and see you soon. Bye bye.